All right, guess what? We are back again. It is I, Coach Slobo.
And Coach Natalie, thanks for joining us.
All right, we came back again. It's almost like we continue to have fun doing this or something. I don't know. I don't know. That or we just want to help people. And yeah,
I
this is a
think
good
it's
way
a
of doing it.
combination of the two. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's strong. I think that's strong. All righty. Coach, what are we talking about today?
Flexibility and mobility today.
All right. Yes,
The
this is such a
pillars.
simple, straightforward, common sense topic, but in my experiences and coaches' experiences, it gets overlooked way too easily. So we figured we would
Oh, yeah.
dedicate this episode to it so that, yes, it is not forgotten and looked over as it is all too often. All righty. So, first and
Yep.
foremost, I think a good way to kick it off is, well, why do we care? All right. From a scientific standpoint, from the coaches nerding out on anatomy standpoint, all right, we basically want the muscle length capabilities to be optimal so that we are A, comfortable, and B, our injury risk is as low as possible. All right, I think those are just the top two easiest ways to understand it. That first one, comfort. All right, I was talking about this with Coach Natalie. I think everyone's goal in life is just to be as comfortable as possible. I think that is a true to form, very simple way of breaking it down, right? Well, let's start at the base. How does the body feel? Okay. If
Mhm.
it's tight and sore and stiff, probably not feeling ready to conquer the day or the week or the year or
Right.
whatever, right? But if we're loose and
Yeah.
capable, all right, yeah, I think you'll be ready to conquer. And plus, once we get moving, all right, to go with number two, any injury risk, all right, is going to be coming down along with those capabilities of the muscles. If they're able to elongate and hit full ranges of motion, hey, guess what? Our injury risk is going to be that much lower. What a concept.
Well, so when you talk about injuries, I feel like maybe some of us like washed up former athletes are like, well, I don't get injured anymore because I'm not playing my sport or I'm not out there doing extreme stuff on the weekends. It's just like I have a pretty routine fitness routine. Like, what's the risk? Like, why are we worried about injury risk?
Sure. Well, I always go with the straightforward saying of I think everyone's an athlete. Some people are just competing at life, right? Like, and I think to take that a step further, especially with your audience in particular, coach, is like parenting is definitely a sport.
And it's an extreme sport.
Right? Like there is definitely some maneuvers and moves that I am not fully comfortable with executing, right? So I always bring this example up, through my coaching career. It's a severe one, it's a scary one, but I think it'll put the point into prospect, right? Let's say your kid is mobile and loves zooming around all over the place, and suddenly you notice they're taking off towards traffic. Are you going to be able to just start sprinting and stop your child from putting themselves into a dangerous scenario? Are you
Yeah.
potentially going to get hurt in the process and then be unable to help your child, right? Again, super severe example, but it's not impossible, right? It's the
I've
bottom
been
line.
in I've been in that scenario, not with my own children because mine aren't runners, thank God, but with other people's kids, like dangling off of the giant, like having gotten themselves outside the upper level of a climbing structure, like I'm gonna fall, and me having to zip up,
There you go.
a ladder that maybe an overweight or a distracted or combination of the two mom could not have navigated in
Right.
time to grab the kid back over the railing. Like it's just, yeah, it is an extreme sport, and I have real
Yeah.
life examples of that are terrifying.
Exactly. And that's the thing, right?
Yep.
If the worst case scenario comes up, I think we'd all rather be prepared for it than the alternative. All right.
Sure.
Plus, like I
Sure.
said, if the other benefit of this is being more comfortable, well, it seems like a win win, right? I mean, A, you're going to feel better throughout the day and the week. And should something happen, you will be that much more ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Training for life. I love that.
Absolutely. Eagle Scout, be prepared has just been bashed into my brain since a young age. So I think everyone else should join on. All righty. So we've covered why. So number two, how? How are we going to do this whole flexibility, mobility thing? All right. We've talked about in a couple episodes full range of motion. I'm a big fan of full range of motion. All right. Squatting as low as possible, right? Getting the shoulders moving in all the different directions of the ball and socket, right? So just make sure that is a regular focus. And by regular, I mean daily. Like every single day, there should be some sort of focus on working your body through all of the ranges of motion. Okay. And a saying I like to drop, all right, it's a favorite of many, is motion is lotion. All right. Just think of it super simple. We got joints, we got muscles. All right. We can't rub in any Aveeno into these guys and have them, that much more ready to rock. No,
Oh,
it's
wouldn't that be
because
lovely though?
I mean, that's what I use for the upper layers. All right. But the bottom
Yeah.
line is for the lower layers, it's movement. It's motion is lotion. That's really
Yeah.
what's going to get all the various fluids, moving to lubricate the joints. Obviously, like I said, with the way that the muscles are built, a lot of it is based on hydration. That's again from a former episode, but the bottom line is the movement is what's going to allow it to avoid stiffening up. All right. A classic example I've given in the past is a sponge, right? If you've ever used a sponge, you make it wet, and then guess what? It's super pliable and movable, and you can try to tear it. And it's probably not even going to. But if you ever find the sponge is completely dried up, right? Think of that like your muscle. It's going to crack and break and pop. And those are all things that we
Yeah.
don't want to use as a descriptor for our muscles. So what I want to throw
Oh,
out
it
here,
gives me the heebie-jeebies just like thinking about it, to be honest. Oh
right?
God.
So
Ooh.
let me just point out a
Yep.
quick red flag. All right. For those who are saying, well, I don't want to, push myself too far. All right. So I want to use a couple different words. One, you don't want to force the muscles through a range of motion. The body is going to give you feedback. If you're wincing through it, if you're making faces as you go through the process, you're doing too much. All right. Dial it back. But we want to focus instead on the word glide. We want to just move through the motion. All right. Should feel smooth to a point. All right. And then what we want to do there is just work on the whole chain from feet to the top of the head and make sure that we're working everything in all the various directions so that we're prepared no matter what.
So when we talk about like the movements we should be doing every day, do you have some good examples of like maybe for someone who is completely out of practice of stretching is like, you know what, I remember doing it in gym class. Maybe I've done it in some group exercise classes, but since the pandemic, I've been doing it on my own and I just don't really have like a stretching routine that I've been in or that I like to do. Where would you suggest they start?
Sure. I think a really common place that a lot of people are more familiar with in the modern sense is yoga. There's just a lot of really great, the word flow is used a lot in yoga classes, right? I mean, obviously there's various kinds. This isn't necessarily required that you go into a room where you're sweating your butt off the whole time. That's a brand of yoga. All right. But what I'm getting at is, if you can move through a full range of motion, a yoga class, you think about your first day in a yoga class versus a few weeks later versus a few months later for anyone who's experienced it, you're super stiff. You're super limited in those first few experiences. A lot of people give up, unfortunately, but we've been doing a good job of bringing up a lot of topics here. Don't give up, just keep trying. First time always sucks. You just got to practice, right? So very much like that, think about these types of movements as like a yoga flow, or how can I get the whole body, all the major joints and muscles going through various movements, all right, that are going to challenge them, but also at the same time help relieve them overall, because again, we're kind of working out that stiffness factor. And like always, all right, we bring this up usually at the end of the episode, but we'll pop it in the middle here. Hey, I know some really cool coaches who might have some ideas as to some good stretches that you might have. So you can simply, leave a comment here on YouTube. You can reach out to me on my website, fitnesswithslobo.com. You can reach out to me on Instagram. You can email me at coachslobo@gmail. A lot of ways to reach out to say, hey, coach, I need some stretch ideas. I will send you some. That is probably the easiest answer, right, coach?
Yeah, and the app that Rob uses in all of his programming has YouTube videos, like an entire library of videos that it's not just like, sometimes you'll go online and you'll like look things up and you're like, oh, I want to find a stretching routine. And maybe you'll find an article with some like static pictures or even illustrations, which just drive me crazy. I'm like, that's not what a body looks like doing that thing. That's what a stick figure that looks like doing that thing. But Rob walks you from start to finish through all of these stretches and all of the other movements that he includes too, in just like a really easy to watch, easy to read kind of way that in the moment while you're doing it, you can just prop up your phone and follow along. It's lovely at your own pace. You don't have to like stop and start during certain intervals. So yeah, it's super convenient.
Yep. I like easy peasy, right? That's absolutely my favorite method of doing things. Let's keep it simple. So all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give us a shout. We are happy to help. That's what we're here for. So, um,
Absolutely.
but let's get into the easiest one. I think let's start as simple gets, right? So number three is going to be stand up from sitting as often as possible. All right. If you have a desk job, if you're a student, all right, if you're just lounging at home on a weekend, all right, yeah, sitting is comfortable. Like we talked about earlier, everyone just wants to be comfortable. However, there's going to be a little bit of a backlash when it comes to this comfort. All right, there are some things going on when we sit for prolonged periods of time that I want everyone to be aware of so that you can think to yourself, oh, it's been a little while, let me get up. So first and foremost, all right, I would say frequency wise, at least once an hour. Just, if you notice the big hand, or I'm sorry, the small hand is ticking over, all right,
Yeah.
yep, got to stand back up again. All right, just get up, get moving. If you can walk around, if you can add in some extra stretching, gold star. But hey, let's just start with the simple one. Just stand up. All right.
Yeah.
If you got a standing desk option, that would be a really, really good one. Obviously, with remote work being a more common thing, there's plenty of opportunities maybe around your house to use surfaces that you might not have used in the past as a
Oh
standing
yeah.
desk.
Head to
So,
your kitchen counter. Yeah, I've gotten, my old office did not have the funds to get me a standing desk when I requested it. I just built a nice little cardboard box
mm-hmm.
situation where I had like tiers where my computer monitor was on the highest box, my keyboard was on a slightly shorter box, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, get creative. Yeah, your coworkers or your family members might side eye you for a minute or two, and then they'll get used to it, and they'll be like, "Oh, damn, that's a really good idea." And
Yep,
have desk envy. So yeah, I highly
exactly.
recommend that too. And there's so many options now for like at home inexpensive treads that you can even walk with your
Sure.
standing desk. Oh, so many cool options.
So
So
many things. So many
yep.
things. So there's a lot of options out there. The bottom line is if you are forced to sit, say you just don't have this option. All right, cool. Well,
Mm-hmm.
set a timer on your watch, set a timer on your phone. All right, just pay attention to whatever's going on and just like just use that as kind of a snack break. I think that's a term that Coach Natalie uses a lot, right? It's just like an exercise
Yep.
snack. All right, we don't need to have a full meal. We just need to have a little nosh. So yeah, just
Sure.
stand up, move around a little bit, and you'll probably be feeling significantly better throughout the day as opposed to being a stiff lump all hunched over by the time the workday is finished.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. So when we sit for that period of time, I've heard a lot of studies, comparing, you know, I think one of my favorite like office quotes is when Daryl makes fun of the office workers and saying they have fat butt disease because they sit all day and they're not moving around the warehouse like they
Who
are.
asked you, Sea
Um,
Monster? Anyway.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. Um, but yeah, I wonder, I've seen like, is sitting the new smoking? Is sitting causing X,
Right.
Y, and Z? What's really happening when we're sitting?
Sure. So here's what's going on. All right. The simplest way to think about it is that if we think of the body standing up, it's elongated, right? When we sit down, all right, a whole bunch of muscles are being shortened. As you can see, literally the distance between my hands got shorter. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
if we think about where we are, all right, there's a couple particular muscle groups that definitely get shorter. And the ones I bring up are the hamstrings and the hip flexors, right? I'm sitting here right now. All right. I'll adjust my posture like we always do, right? All right, my hips are bent 90 degrees, my knees are bent 90 degrees. And so instead of my hamstring being fully alonged, all right, it is bent at 90. Same thing at my hips. So it's in that shortened position. All right. And basically, if we stay in this shortened position, when we do eventually go to get up, all right, I'm sure a few people in even just their 20s and 30s might groan if it's been a long week or they did a good workout yesterday. And I know our older clients are watching this going, I just grown normally, like forget you. But the bottom line is, right, one of the most common ways that your body's trying to tell you that everything's too short is you get low back pain. Hey, coach, have you ever had a client with low back pain? Have you ever heard of that before?
I'm all the time.
Yeah, this is kind of like the most common thing we hear, right? So
Yeah.
this is why it's being like, this is why I want to bring it up as just this big broad topic is, yeah, we're sitting in chairs. They're designed for this shortened position. And then you get into like, areas with schools or offices that have like these mass made chairs that are definitely never intended for comfort. So you end up slouching and leaning and trying to find some sort of comfortable position. And again, you're just in this like contorted, shortened position, and it's just making the problem worse. So again, just keep it simple. What can I do to work on my posture when I sit, and then of course stand up as often as possible. elongate those muscles again so they don't shorten up and stiff up.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So, okay. So we're not necessarily like killing ourselves by sitting, but we are truly we're just working against ourselves so much in terms of, you know, the productivity we could be making by moving more frequently. So, okay,
Right.
that's
And
encouraging, but it's also, yeah, a good reminder.
yeah. And I think it also boils down to like the stress factor, right? It's just if we're busy sitting all day and not moving, all right, our hormone balance is usually thrown off. So I think that's where the comparison to smoking really comes in. It's like, yeah, short muscles aren't going to shorten your life, but your high stress levels might, by being just completely in that just slouched over sad work mode all the time. Yeah. I mean, that could have a longevity effect. So I think the comparison can be apt if you look at it from a certain perspective, right? So let's keep it rolling. All right, we're looking good on time, by the way, coach. So let's keep going. All right, number 4, let's just keep it simple. All right, do it on
Easy
the
button,
days.
easy button.
Yeah, do it on the days that you just don't really feel like doing much. All right, in our sicko mode episode last time, all right, we started off really simple with the lower expectations. All right. This very much is congruent with that. If you have just a low energy day, you do have a ton of work to do and you got the kiddos to take care of after that's over. And right, time is just not on your side today. Well, quick dose of stretching is going to be probably the best choice you could make beyond just like sleeping and hydrating, which we've talked about ad nauseum here. All right. But bottom line is like, yeah, just keep the expectations low. Do a flexibility workout so you can say you did a workout that day, check that box off, and you don't have to feel guilty, right? I mean, it's getting darker and colder as the winter sets in. I was telling coach earlier, I'm still warming up my hands from the dog walk earlier as we're down in the 30s today with the sun shining. So
I've
bottom
got
line
fuzzy
is,
socks and slippers on right now. I'm
yep,
there with you.
exactly. So these days are going to come up more frequently this time of year, especially. So this is again just going with the anti-guilt factor that is, well, do a flexibility workout, focus on your mobility that day, work on elongating the body a little bit, and then you can count it as a win.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about the dog barking in the background, by the way. That's I keep muting
Dogs bark.
myself because my children were trying to be sweet. They took one out for a walk and they left the other one in the kennel. So now he's having walk envy from inside the house. But speaking of being in my house, yeah, we just dealt with weeks of illness, viruses, in addition to my own morning sickness. And yeah, there's a long stretch there where I was like, I can barely make it through the day without a nap, much less get myself out lifting weights and elevating my heart rate. And on those days, yeah, it was like the best I could do was some laps in the sunshine around our property. Luckily, I have a big property, so there were big laps. But also, yeah, just some like stretching my body, not even in any sort of like yogic or calisthenic sort of way. It was just like, oh, I just need to reach and like feel the ends of my potential, because it was that like, curl into a ball. This is my safe zone. But yeah, I feel stiff and horrible. But yeah, I think it's okay to give yourself that grace too in those periods where you're just like, if nothing else, I kept myself, in a better mental state and physical state by expanding myself in so many ways. So
yeah, and something that we always talk about with athletes in particular, but again, I think everybody's an athlete, to talk about return to play, right? Is just, hey, if an athlete gets injured or athletes get sick too, say they're sidelined for whatever reason, well, the more we can keep them moving, the more we can continue to just, implement as much of their normal routine as possible, the easier they're going to be able to get back to their normal routine, back to their normal schedule of play, which for an athlete, at the highest level is going to be literally their paycheck. So it is rather important. So what I would say is, hey, anything more than zero effort is a celebration. All right. You could have chosen to do nothing. Instead, you chose to do something. Was it the grandest workout of all workouts? No, but it doesn't have to be every time. All right. Our energy levels fluctuate for all sorts of various factors. So the bottom line is work with what you have. All right. There is no guilt in simply using your capabilities whatever they might be on that given day. All right. And again, not getting down on yourself if, oh, well, I set my expectation up here, but I'm only able to do this. So now I feel like this. It's like, no, that's not what we're going for. Just set your expectation to somewhere. And when you hit anywhere, you go, cool, I did more than this. This is always a win, no matter how high you're getting off the ground. All right. So roll on the floor. Literally just roll out of bed onto the floor. All right. Stretch out, turn the TV on, turn on a playlist, like whatever. Just as simple as possible. Don't do nothing. Just find the energy that little bit it takes just to get yourself started.
Yeah. And I think the other piece to that too is like, I think people build it up in their head too, of like, oh, a stretching routine, you know, I have to follow a prescription. You know, I think it's a very intuitive thing too. Like on certain days, you might feel tighter in certain areas, you might feel more flexible in certain areas. And I think, yeah, just like listening to your body, like checking in for that intuitive piece of flexibility and mobility is like a good way to not only be more mindful and like have a feel for what's going on for you, but also just to like, yeah, give yourself that more pleasure than, you know, force to make it enjoyable for yourself. And I mean, stretching and flexibility is a thing that like my clients specifically, like they might be running late to class, so they're going to miss the warm up, or they might have to take off and do a kid drop off somewhere. They're going to skip the cool down, right? And it's like, how likely are they really going to be to like go and stretch in the drop off line or something like that afterwards? You know, probably not, right?
Not happening.
But it's right. It's like something that still needs to be built in
right.
to those workouts, as well as, yeah, just your everyday routine. So
absolutely.
Like we talk about scheduling other things like your workouts or meals or whatever, like scheduling some stretch time for yourself. It's downtime, it's rest, relaxation. And like you said, you can build it into TV time or music listening or podcast time. You know, it's one of those habit stacking things that's a really easy add on to your other good habits that you're already doing.
Exactly. And that's perfect. We're just going to finish up our number 5 by just reminding you, yeah, it just doesn't take long. There's just fewer excuses to fit it into the schedule if it only takes a few minutes versus 30 minutes or 45 or 60 or 90, right? It's just, yeah, you can work the whole body with just, you know, a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of efficiency of knowing how to hit certain areas, knowing what areas you normally work that might be more tight than others. Yeah, that's absolutely the case. So the bottom line is yeah, just maximize your efficiency and just know that you can just kind of just slot it in to random spots. Like, yeah, if you can schedule it ahead of time, awesome. What I would even say is, in order to kind of take that extra stress out of it, is just incorporate it into whatever routine you normally do. I'm sure people wake up in the morning, pour themselves their first cup of coffee, you know, have that little bit of like 5 to 10 minutes of downtime before the day gets started, right? I say just like literally back end that with like 3 minutes of stretching. Because personally, that's what I do. Is just I finish my coffee in the morning and then I roll onto the floor with my foam roller and my stretching band, and I do a few minutes of mobility. And then, hey, guess what? Now I'm ready to start the day. I got all this good stuff flowing, and my body doesn't feel stiff and achy like it did, you know, as I rolled out of bed. And so therefore, I'm much more prepared. I feel more prepared. I'm ready to go. And so, yeah, just take advantage of those little doses. It doesn't take long. And once you get good at it, it's going to take you even less time to just poke it in the schedule.
Well, yeah. And I love that you mentioned like props that are available to you too. Like there's a myriad ways you can incorporate like golf balls or lacrosse balls or, you know, towels or belts or whatever it is that you have into stretching. You don't have to go out and buy top of the line this or that or the latest knobby thing to, you know, massage, whatever. It's, you can do a lot with a very little, which is the beauty of this mobility work. And like I said, the app has a lot of different examples of that you can see. My personal favorite that Rob introduced me to is the world's greatest stretch, which involves some like runners lunging. It's a, you know, it's like a compound of movement. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in that one. And for me, that was one that I kind of remember pieces of that from like my old dance warm-ups too, of like getting in that runner's lunge and a lot of stretching and twisting and stuff like that. So I love the world's greatest stretch, and I think it's appropriately named. One of my least favorite that I'm still coming to learn to love is I can't even think of the name right now.
I bet it's shin box. It's always shin box.
Shin box. Yes, it is shin box. Oh my God, shin box. Thank you. Yeah,
I was going to say doing this for a while. Yeah, I know which one's the hardest.
Four corners. Yeah, no, that is the one. And if you guys don't know what it is, it's like your legs are in like a scissor kind of position like this, and you're rotating from side to side on your knees. And it's just one of those, like, I feel like an old man when I do it, but I know I have to keep doing it to get better.
So fun fact,
yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Yeah, shin box was actually picked up when I was at the Olympic Training Center. Like I got that from Olympic training coaches. Like that one was straight out of
slave drivers. No, I'm just
kidding. Look, those gold medals keep pouring in, so we're doing something right. Okay, that's all I know. But yeah, bottom line is, yeah, like I said, you know, with all my years in the industry and being a nerd and all the things that make me who I am, bottom line is, yeah, you start to learn that there are some stretches that are much more efficient because you're just going to wind up, you know, hitting a whole bunch of stuff in a very short period of time instead of isolating certain muscle groups one at a time. Which I think is the downfall for a lot of people. I think you brought up earlier, like gym class stretching. Like that's what I think of as gym class stretching. It's just like you do one little thing at a time and you're down on the ground for 10 to 15 minutes because you got to go through all of it. And it's like, yeah, like I get that. But with just a handful of stretches, you can wind up just checking off all the boxes you need with literally like 3 to 5 movements instead of needing 10 individual ones, right? The other thing I want to make sure I throw in here, just because we did bring up myofascial release tools like tennis balls, golf balls, rollers, things of that nature. All right, let's just remember what we talked about early on, which is we're discussing a lot of stretching the muscle to full range of motion. All right, the myofascial tools are going to have benefits, but they're not going to benefit that particular attribute. All right, so foam rolling, good. Is it the whole picture? No. I would say stretching is a higher priority. And then foam rolling is kind of like the assistant. All right. Like there's value to both of them. But if I had to rank them, I would put stretching above the myofascial release just because we know the benefits are going to be higher, especially when it comes to things like increasing range of motion, increasing muscle capability, things of that nature. We're still learning what myofascial release is really doing. So I would say until we're like 100% certain that it's definitely doing this, just bank on stretching and then build in your myofascial release if there's time. All right, because there's so much of what we're talking about, right, is that time efficiency. So if you had to choose one,
I feel like there's a whole nother episode in there.
Okay, so there you go. So let's go ahead and wrap it up with that. Is as we came up with today's topic, we literally thought to ourselves, like, there's 4 episodes here. Like there's so many things that we need to talk about when it comes to these types of things. So we're going to be coming back at you in future episodes in similar, kind of breakout topics, if you will, including, I think the one I'm going to get most excited for is simply demonstrating 5 favorite stretches, just like we did with our form check episode. Just I will happily get up and demo some of my favorite stretches. I will make sure that World's Greatest is in there. I will make sure Shin Box is in there. I will figure out whatever the other 3 are going to be. All right. But yes, I will make sure that becomes a priority for a future episode so that none of you are left without any great ideas. Right, Coach?
I appreciate that. Thank you very
much. Absolutely.
So, Rob, can you tell us a little bit more about how, if people wanted to have access to your coaching, to your stretch library, to your movement library, how do we best get a hold of you?
All right. So first and foremost, if you're watching this right now here on YouTube, click that little subscribe button below. Yeah, I know. We're totally YouTubers now, right? Click like and subscribe. Yeah. All right. Bottom line is, it's going to literally tell you when we do these episodes. So you don't have to worry about an Instagram announcement or whatever to remind you that we're awesome and doing this every couple of weeks. All right. So go ahead and subscribe to that. The other thing I want to bring up is with the season, with being, likely stuck indoors more frequently, I'm trying to keep myself busy. So I have actually been writing up some scripts for a couple new series. I don't want to give away exactly what they are just yet because I haven't really fully figured it out yet. But the bottom line is there is more content coming, all right, to this very channel. So again, there's more reasons to subscribe and check it out. And like we've brought up in the last couple episodes, for those who want to support the channel, who want to support my company in particular, I made a Patreon. Hooray, Patreon. So patreon.com/CSFC for Coach Slobo Fitness Consulting. It is also linked below in the description in case you are looking for it there. But the bottom line is there are multiple tiers of involvement. So no matter what your your budget or your wallet will allow you to do, especially this time of the year, it's the giving season, right? Yeah, any and all is appreciated. All right, you're literally keeping the ship afloat, if you will. So yeah, whether it's the lowest tier or the highest tier, or you want to literally come on board for a full coaching program, I literally have a few spots open. So yeah, don't be shy. Reach out in any way, shape, or form. Like I said before, you can be here on YouTube. You can go to my website, fitnesswithslobo.com, also linked below. We're on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I think that's all the things. You can email me. You can text me. If you need me, call me, no matter
so
where
available.
you are, no matter how far. Don't worry, baby.
I love it.
Was
that? There ain't no mountain high.
There's a smorgasbord of options. That's all I know.
Oh,
there is a smorgasbord of options. So do not hesitate to get involved. We'd love to have you.
Well, thank you for all of that wonderful information, and thank you guys for joining us for yet another episode of Real Talk. And we appreciate you guys. And if we probably won't see you before then, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. If you're watching this in real time, you don't need to earn holidays. We just want to remind you of that too. It's just another day with another meal, and I hope you love it, enjoy it, and maybe get some movement into, but mostly just enjoy your family time and the celebration.
Yep. Social health is health too, right? Some enjoyment in the diet is never a bad thing, as we've talked about in former episodes. So yeah, I'm very much on team enjoy the holidays. No guilt here. All right. You don't need to earn it with a turkey trot. Hey, if you want a turkey trot it, whatever. Enjoy a nice brisk run in the morning. If you don't, then don't. That's fine too. All right. But the bottom line is, hey, it looks like Coach's parental duties are coming up. So we're going to call it a day. Same here, wishing you the greatest of Thanksgivings and holidays. We'll see you in another couple weeks. But until then, be well. Thank you for watching, and we will see you the next time.
Have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.
See ya.